When my brother-in-law moved in and clashed over my favorite artist, I never expected it to lead to a journey of understanding, respect, and family bonding. Join me as I navigate this unexpected situation. Part 1. The Unexpected House Guest. Hey there, fellow Redditors. I'm so excited to share my story with you all. I've been a long-time listener of this community, and this is my first time posting. I really appreciate the support and wisdom that flows through here, so I'm hoping you can help me with a bit of a dilemma. So let's dive into it. My partner, who is 23, and I, a 25-year-old non-binary person, have been living together for about 6 months. We absolutely adore Taylor Swift. Yes, we're huge Swifties. Our home is filled with her music, and our vinyl collection of her albums is something we're really proud of. I even had the chance to attend her Eras tour, which was a magical experience. But, as life would have it, things took a turn when my partner's younger brother, who was 22, fell on hard times and needed a place to stay. After being kicked out of their family home, my brother-in-law found himself in a tough spot. He tried moving in with his partner, but that didn't pan out either, leading to him being homeless. Knowing him for years and feeling a sense of duty to help, my partner and I decided to offer him our extra room. We were fully aware that this would stretch our resources. He had $0 to his name, but we thought we could manage it, at least temporarily. It's been 3 weeks since he moved in, and while he's managed to secure a job and has been helpful around the house, a storm was brewing. With Taylor Swift's new album set to release, his disdain for her music has escalated to an almost theatrical level. I never expected that my love for her songs would create such tension in our home. Now, every time I try to enjoy a bit of her music, it feels like I'm walking on eggshells. I mean, it's just music, right? But he reacts dramatically, slamming doors, stomping around, and making snarky comments. It has reached a point where I feel like I can't even exist in my own home without inciting a conflict. Just the other night, while my partner and I were winding down with dinner and some light TikTok scrolling, his brother came down, heard a couple of her songs, and stormed off in a huff. His dinner went straight into the trash, and it made my heart sink. How did it come to this? I know everyone has different tastes in music, and I respect that, but this is starting to feel unreasonable, and I'm growing increasingly anxious. I'm at a loss for what to do next. Do I have to choose between my own happiness and keeping the peace in our home? As I ponder all these thoughts, I realized I need to take action. I want to find a way to address the situation before it spirals further. The stakes are high, and I can feel the tension in the air. What do you think I should do? Should I confront him about his behavior, or is there a more delicate approach to take? The clock is ticking, and something has to give. Part 2. The Tipping Point. Thank you all for your responses. After reflecting on my situation, I decided it was time to take the bull by the horns. The atmosphere was growing unbearably tense, and I knew I needed to address this issue head-on before it spiraled out of control. So, the following day, I sat down with my partner and we discussed our approach. We knew we had to find a time when my brother-in-law was in a good mood to have a candid conversation. After all, no one wants to feel attacked, right? We waited until he returned from work one evening and we invited him to join us in the living room. The atmosphere felt slightly lighter and I took a deep breath, preparing to lay everything on the table. I explained how his reactions to our music made us feel like we were tiptoeing around him in our own home and how it was starting to wear on our mental health. To my surprise, he listened. We discussed how we were happy to have him stay with us, but that it really needed to come with some respect for the space we were sharing. He was taken aback, and I could see him processing what we were saying. I shared my feelings of frustration and irritation, and I realized our conversation was digging deeper than just music. It was about boundaries and respect. As we talked, he opened up about some personal struggles he had been facing. It shed light on some of his behaviors, and I could see the shift in his demeanor. He seemed to realize that his intense dislike for Taylor Swift was spilling over into our shared living space in a way that was unfair. It was a relief to see him acknowledge that. We ended the conversation by agreeing to set some house rules. I shared that while I didn't expect him to embrace my music, I needed him to respect my right to enjoy it in my home. He agreed to keep his comments to himself and focus on his own interests instead. With a sense of hope, we parted ways. Feeling as if a weight had been lifted. But deep down, I knew this was just the beginning of the journey. As I sat in the living room later that evening, I felt a flicker of optimism. Maybe we could turn the situation around. But would it hold? As I replayed that conversation in my mind, I couldn't help but wonder if we had truly reached an understanding, or if this was simply a temporary fix. Part 3. Setting Boundaries. The next few days felt like a balancing act. I was cautiously optimistic after our conversation, but I couldn't shake the feeling that we were still teetering on the edge. My brother-in-law seemed to be making an effort, but I wasn't entirely convinced that the tension had evaporated. I decided to keep an eye on the situation. My partner and I resumed our Taylor Swift listening, albeit a bit more quietly and discreetly. I didn't want to push his buttons, but I also didn't want to feel like I had to hide a part of myself in my own home. It was a tricky line to walk. I kept reminding myself that this was a learning experience for all of us. One evening, while cleaning up after dinner, I noticed my brother-in-law sitting in the living room watching TV. I took a chance and asked him how he was doing with everything. He seemed genuinely surprised that I was checking in. He opened up about how he had been feeling overwhelmed with everything going on in his life, and it hit me that perhaps his anger toward my music was more about his own frustrations than anything else. We had a heart-to-heart, and it felt like a breakthrough. I learned more about his favorite artists, and I even offered to listen to some of them with him. In return, he agreed to let us enjoy our Swiftie moments in peace. We both realized that we were in this together, sharing a space, and that meant compromise was key. However, I still had a lingering worry in the back of my mind. Was this newfound harmony just a facade? Would we soon find ourselves back in the chaos? I decided to keep the communication lines open, reminding myself that it was essential to address any issues before they became bigger problems. But just as I was starting to feel a sense of stability, a new challenge arose. I overheard my brother-in-law talking to a friend on the phone about how he still couldn't stand Taylor Swift's music. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. Had he really understood what we discussed? Was he still harboring resentment? I needed to figure this out before it became an issue again. Part 4. The Unexpected Twist. As the days rolled on, I tried to stay positive. My brother-in-law seemed to be attempting to navigate our new ground rules, but I couldn't shake that nagging feeling of uncertainty. The moment I overheard him on the phone made me realize that it wasn't just his dislike for Taylor Swift that was the issue. It was a deeper frustration that needed to be addressed. One evening, I suggested we all sit down for a family dinner. I thought it would be a good opportunity to bond over food and maybe even share some laughs. As we gathered around the table, I felt a sense of hope that maybe we could create a new routine together. But as we enjoyed our meal, I noticed my brother-in-law's mood beginning to shift. His phone buzzed and he received a notification that seemed to set him off. I could see his frustration bubbling beneath the surface. I knew I had to address it before it escalated. "Hey, is everything okay?" I asked, trying to keep my tone light. He sighed and threw his fork down, explaining that he was still feeling overwhelmed by everything: work, personal life, and yes, even the music situation. I felt a pang of empathy and knew this was the moment to dig deeper. I gently reminded him of our earlier conversation and asked if there was something specific bothering him about the music. To my surprise, he opened up about feeling judged for not liking certain things, and it struck a chord with me. We began to discuss the pressures we all face in life, and it was a turning point. It wasn't just about Taylor Swift anymore. It was about understanding each other and finding common ground. We laughed, shared stories, and even bonded over our favorite music. In that moment, I realized that the root of his frustration was more about his struggles than my love for an artist. But just as I thought we were making progress, a new thought crossed my mind. Would this newfound harmony be enough to keep the peace? Would we soon find ourselves back in the chaos? I felt a mix of hope and apprehension. Part 5. Building Bridges. The days following our heart-to-heart felt more uplifting. My brother-in-law seemed to be making a genuine effort to engage with us, and I noticed a shift in the air. It was as if a weight had been lifted off his shoulders, and he was willing to communicate more openly. We continued to share meals together, and I even invited him to join us for our weekly movie nights. It felt good to have him included, and slowly, the tension in the house began to fade. I could sense the camaraderie returning, and it was a welcome relief. One afternoon, as I was organizing my vinyl collection, I had a little epiphany. What if I could surprise my brother-in-law with a few records of his favorite artists? It would be a gesture to show him that I valued his interests too. I shared the idea with my partner, and we both agreed it would be a great way to bridge the gap and create a more harmonious living environment. The next day, I headed out to a local record shop and carefully selected a few vinyls that I thought he would appreciate. As I wrapped them up, I felt a sense of excitement bubbling inside me. I couldn't wait to see his reaction. That evening, I presented him with the surprise. His eyes lit up as he unwrapped the records, and I could see that my gesture genuinely touched him. "Wow, you actually thought of me," he exclaimed, and it felt like a small victory in our journey toward better communication. As we sat together listening to his favorite songs, I felt a sense of unity growing between us. It wasn't just about tolerating each other anymore. We were genuinely connecting. Still, a nagging question lingered. Would this newfound bond remain strong, or was it just a temporary phase? Part 6. A New Chapter. As the weeks went by, the atmosphere in our home transformed. My brother-in-law began to flourish in his new environment, and I could see his confidence grow as he settled into his job. The three of us started having regular family dinners, movie nights, and even game nights. It felt like we were finally becoming a family again. We continued to hold our bi-weekly check-ins, ensuring that we kept the lines of communication open. My brother-in-law expressed gratitude for our support and acknowledged how much he had learned about respect and compromise. It was heartwarming to see him take accountability for his past behavior and embrace the changes we made together. As we approached the lease renewal in April, I felt a sense of anticipation. We had collectively agreed to reassess our living situation, but I was optimistic about the future. My partner and I discussed the possibility of him staying longer, especially since he was now contributing to the household. One evening, we gathered in the living room for one of our cherished movie nights. I looked around at my partner and brother-in-law, feeling grateful for the progress we had made. I realized that not only had we overcome the music issue, but we had built a stronger bond through our struggles. It was a testament to the power of communication, empathy, and understanding. As the credits rolled on our movie, I felt a surge of warmth in my heart. We were no longer just roommates. We were a family navigating life together. I learned that sometimes challenges can lead to unexpected growth and deeper connections. And as I looked over at my brother-in-law, I knew that we had truly turned a corner. Our home had transformed into a safe space where everyone could feel happy and respected. And just like that, we settled into a new chapter of our lives, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, together. Thank you, dear Redditors, for being a part of my journey. Your support and insights helped me navigate this situation, and I'm forever grateful for this community. Here's to new beginnings and the power of music, love, and family.